my buddy Steve Smith back here on the show. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing excellent. How are you, Rich?
Well, Steve, you know where my allegiances lie on the football field, having grown up in New York City. And quarterback's out with mono. So
I know. I saw that.
What
you don't want to know my response?
Sure. The floor is yours, Steve Smith.
No, it's no.
It's not safe for work.
I'm not going there.
Steve Smith turning down contact to begin this edition of the Rich Eisen Show chat.
That was when I saw that. There's several inappropriate things that ran through my mind, and I just said, tragic, and moved on.
I know. I mean, it is potentially for the Jets season. I mean, it's the Browns this week, right? And then it's the Patriots the following week. And this is one of those debilitating illnesses. This could really put
it can linger for a long time.
Right? What do you think's going on in that Jets locker room right now, Steve?
Well, I think the good thing about what's going on is they already know. Management knows with the new coaching staff, with the new general manager, they know it's a process. The real question is, will the powers that be really understand that this is a process? And the biggest elephant in the room is the fans. Will they allow themselves to really relax and say, hey, even though you had high expectations with Lev Bell in that acquisition, you still have to understand that it's still you got a young quarterback. This team has not, with the head coach and the general manager, they have not ingrained their philosophy completely because they haven't had a full offseason yet. They still have to allow some of the acquisitions, some of the draft picks of the past that was from the old regime, figure out who needs to stay. And who do you need to move on from, or as the business world says, go in a different direction?
And then on the flip side, you got the Browns. I had Derrick Henry on the show in hour number one. He's one of the many Titans that delivered the punch in the mouth. I mean, they got hit in the mouth by Tennessee, and a 40-burger is what the Titans put on Cleveland in a game one similar to the Jets with so many high hopes that went in a totally different direction. How do you think they're going to respond to that in Cleveland, Steve?
The players or the fan base?
I guess the players, because they're the ones who committed 18 penalties in that loss, too.
Well, we don't really know how they're going to respond now on paper and with words. And unfortunately, you get a mic put in your face, and you have to search for words to, one, not place blame, not finger point, and not have accountability on yourself because you played a role into that loss. No matter how well you did, you were part of the loss because that's part of being a team. But I asked Network to go to Cleveland to observe their training camp because I wanted to see for myself what was this team about. And here's what this team is. When I think of the Cleveland Browns, I see them as a all-star. It's like an all-star game. Everybody's going to score points, but very few people are going to play defense. And the defense coordinator, Steve Wilks, Freddie Kitchens, the head coach, and co-offensive coordinator, they have to figure out which guys will do a little bit of defense, which guys won't, which guys, what routes can they run and which routes they cannot. Odell Beckham is a phenomenal wide receiver. But there is probably a route that he doesn't run as good as Landry and vice versa. And it takes some time to figure that all out. And unfortunately, they're going to have to figure it out in the game against their opponents because that's the only way you know. That's the only way you can figure out what someone's made of and what deficiencies and what great things they do is by baptism by fire, really experiencing on-the-job training.
And in terms of not play defense, you mean just do the all around game, right? Not actually play
Yeah,
defense.
I just mean just not actually playing defense, just the all around game. Because when we watch an NBA All Star game,
Yeah.
There's defensive player, there's defensive players of the year on that team. But an All Star game is about scoring points. It's about the finesse, the razzle and dazzle. And when you look at the lineup and the guys on paper, they can wow you. But in a football game, sometimes you don't need a guy that's going to wow you. Sometimes you need a guy who's just going to stuff and stop the run or get after the quarterback. And so you got to figure out, who's those guys and who can do what and who can't.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download The Rich Eisen Show app.